welcome everyone to another episode of AI for Real. Today our guest is Rachel Lee, and I think it's probably one of the most unusual backgrounds in tech that we have, at least at the conference. And you went from cartoonist then to engineer. I think you are now a developer experience leader. At least from what I could find online. How did that journey unfold?
Oh man. Well, to be clear, I'm in this weird space where I'm kind of straddling the web because I worked on the web building standards and browsers. I was in FANG and in open source. And FANG,
Hmm.
big tech in America for the better part of like 20 years. And I traveled the world, taught people about the Web Animations API. But I see that the web is fundamentally changing. I've always said that the browser is not a document reader and have argued for an interactive web. And now with personal agents like ChatGPT and Claude coming on board, I just can see the future of not just web, but apps and operating systems coming. So I like to think of myself as an agentic web engineer, and I'm actively working to help folks bridge the gap between AI and the web as we know it. Right now, I'm writing, for instance, about small language models and generative engine optimization at web.dev, which is a Google platform. And I've been working with startups like AgentQL and Arcade to bring more tools to people who are building agents and engaging with the web in those ways. But yeah, I wasn't always in the AI field. I've just been following my nose because I love connecting humans to one another. When I made comics for teenage girls, I had this
Hmm.
Drupal website where all of my fans would gather. We didn't have Facebook like we do now. So I had this community with message boards and teenage girls sharing their comics. And I had like a newsletter, which we didn't have MailChimp, so I had to set up open source software for that too. Shop,
Nice.
everything. So I learned all these skills so that I could connect with my fans. And then it turned out that continuing to use those skills in tech paid much better than making award-winning comics. So that's how I ended up in tech. You're welcome.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I want to jump in on something that you mentioned about the browsers, because I think the timing is perfect. We have now, like we are a few days ago, ChatGPT or OpenAI just launched their new browser. I'm currently using it, testing it for like 2 or 3 days right now. So what do you think about it?
You may have noticed I took a long drink of my tea there. Uh, I have been actually doing live streams testing out agentic
Mm-hmm.
browsers, or AI browsers as I call them, for a while now. Starting with Dia, then Comet. Strawberry is one, these kids from Sweden. They've been working on building an AI browser for a
Mm-hmm.
very long time, and they've really put a lot of effort into the usability. Got to be honest, I think Atlas launched too soon. One of the challenges is we are hearing from, Red Hat hackers today that they're able to jailbreak people's personal identifiable information. And because it comes from ChatGPT, there's been a lot of splashing around in
Mm-hmm.
uh, out there on the TV. Oh, ChatGPT's got a browser. And that's just a flare gun signal to any hackers. Simon Wilson said 99.9% secure is not secure. It
Yeah.
just means that they have to try extra hard to get that credit card information and your social security number, but it's still really worth it. So I've actually been moving off of Comet because I feel that the number of prompt injection attacks is only going to increase. And I am not set up to do regular agentic browser activities in a sanitized environment.
Mm-hmm.
I think security professionals are the ones who should be the first to enter. I'm not that, so I'm backing away because I don't want to find out in 5 years that I let my AI browser cross paths with a vicious prompt injection, and this attack has been sleeping for like 5 years.
So you're out of the AI browser world for now.
I'm watching from the sidelines. I will be
Okay.
doing a test the tires on Atlas,
Mm-hmm.
but like I said, the threat of what could happen right now is so high. I'll probably be shifting over to testing out Chrome's AI features, um, because they've been a little bit more. I feel the Chrome waited a long time to launch them, and
Hmm.
focusing more on using agents with MCP calls to API servers, which is another
Hmm.
way that you can still use the pipes of the web. But if you're working with trusted servers from, LinkedIn or WhatsApp, actual, you can choose which tools you're using. And you can make sure that your browser, well, your AI agent is only interacting with trusted MCP servers that are less
Hmm.
likely to have a prompt injection attack lurking on them.
Okay, makes sense. But why do you think the folks at OpenAI rushed to release Atlas instead of, because they probably know much of these security flaws?
I can't speak to that. I don't actually I can't I mean, maybe they just wanted to make sure that they had something to show, because OpenAI
Hmm.
has moved from being a research lab to being a launch focused, shareholder driven business.
Yeah.
And that's a very different outcome. If this were,
Hmm.
for instance, coming from Anthropic would not have, I wouldn't, given Anthropic's focus on safety and security,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think they would let it until they could promise 100% security, which is why we're not seeing an agentic browser coming out from Anthropic in the
Hmm.
near future that we know of. But OpenAI, they gotta hit their launch schedule, they gotta have their ship week. I look at ChatGPT 5. So they're coming out with the browser. It's like, I get it. I get why you're doing it. But the risk of people saying, yeah, we don't use AI browsers because we hear you can get hacked that way. I know this
Hmm.
person who got hacked that way, has just gone through the roof, which means they could have created a freeze on AI browsers for. Remember how, well, you might not, you're a bit younger than I am, I think. But I remember back when I first started using the internet, we had to enter our credit card information into forms by hand. And not all of those forms were secured with HTTPS. And you'd hear
Okay.
from your auntie that I know someone who put their credit card information onto a website and then their credit card was stolen. They had all these charges on it.
Yeah, I remember that. I actually remember it's like a leak from the PlayStation Network that happened some years ago, and I think it was related to something like that.
Whenever you have a technology this close to the bleeding edge, every little bit of trust that you lose with the wider
Hmm.
user base just sets back the time to market saturation. And I really want to
Yeah,
get to market saturation, so I'm a little cheesed off.
but I feel like we have like two paths here, and they are kind of opposite paths now. Because from what I see, we have the browser as a new OS where you can run
Mm-hmm.
a lot of applications inside it, and you can and like you have static web pages like newsletters or like information web pages, and you have apps, let's say Instagram, TikTok, that you want to browse for yourself and not like delegate that to an agent. But then
Do
we
you?
also have, maybe, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. But then on the other, like on the other path, um you have the promise of all of the web being used by agents, so it becomes like a huge net of databases that agents can just grab and then you have an interface like ChatGPT to interact with all of the information. Like those are very contradictory paths. Which one do you think will win, or maybe they are not as contradictory as I'm saying, but what do you think
Well,
about this?
that's a great question. So you're asking, like, are we going to go, is the agent going to become personal and more app-like, or is it going to run more like a browser off open information across the web?
Exactly.
To which I ask, why not both? Uh, with the tools that we have available to us today, it's very easy to get access to the information that's usually locked into apps. And people who want to monetize the content they're creating are increasingly moving on to apps. Businesses with dashboards, though, and businesses that want to sell you items and services really want to be available in your agent, though. So they are taking every API that they have, making it available as an MCP server. Shopify just teamed up with OpenAI to release a buying experience using MCP UI right there in the agent. No need to visit a website. On the other hand, you're seeing people who create content on the web. Their entire ad-based model is broken. They don't know how to monetize anymore. And you're seeing things like RSL, which stands for, I think, really simple syndication language. It's a bunch of publishers got together and they said, this is how we're going to charge for agents to access and crawlers to scrape our content. And we're going to team up with Fastly to make sure that they don't have to sign and say, yeah, we'll do that. They're just going to get charged. They won't have access unless they pay. So you're seeing content vendors actually taking initiative, which I love. It's great to see micropayments. Google never brought them to the web after they got control of the W3C, as it were, and now we're seeing independent publishers really pushing on it. I love it. This is what the web was built for. And so we're also seeing independent people starting to do things like poison their content. You know, if you don't respect the robots.txt, you might end up scraping a bunch of content that has like nepenthes in it or some of these other poison pills that will poison any model that's trained on that content. So we're already seeing the web training the creators of scrapers and LLMs and agents to, trust, listen to the robots.txt. If there's a humans only sign on it, you might regret imbibing this. I wouldn't be surprised to see prompt injection showing up as another adversarial way of deferring for people who are trying to monetize content. But for everyone else, they're probably going to try to make it so that you don't even have to visit the website. Just, install our tool, install our app, which means that agents are directly competing with apps. You got the QuickBooks experience of it's tax software. You can use the desktop app, you can use the website, you can use the iOS app, they have them all. And inside they've got like 8 teams, different teams writing different languages supporting this. And I know they're adding just one more team to this, but for the people who run those teams, this is the opportunity for them to consolidate. If agents actually make up 80% of their users at one point, all they have to do is take the APIs powering the web version and take the efforts that they're putting into the apps and just redirect them towards building a better agentic version. So it makes good business sense, and that's why we're seeing a lot of excitement there. And when things like MCP UI, they're being written in HTML and CSS and JavaScript. So this might just be another iteration of the web versus something that's going to replace it. It's more of its evolution. The web's been steadily losing to apps for a while now, ever since 2016. And this might be the thing that evolves it to the next stage.
And to that point, I just want to I remember seeing Brian Chesky saying something about the apps inside ChatGPT, like I'm good friends with Sam, but it's not good. It's not good enough for Airbnb to be inside of ChatGPT. So maybe there's like not all of the, let's say, vendors or suppliers want to be a ChatGPT provider. They want to have their own interface so that people can, I don't know, in this case, search for homes and activities. So I don't see it as like everyone wants to be inside ChatGPT, because I think that for some companies the website experience, their website or their platform experience is the business or is part of the business.
I feel that, and I would expect to hear that from people who own like the app experience or own the web experience. It's their job, literally, to maintain that experience and make it the centerpiece of the company. But also consider, when you look at the conversion rate is so high when you are the top recommendation in someone's ChatGPT experience compared to competing for ads, etc. on Google, that the marketing teams are highly incentivized to, what does it take for us to get in to these agents? And they're going to come back to engineering, they already are, and say, so can we create like a discoverable widget or something that people can install, because like that's going to get us ranked higher. These are the same teams that convinced the same directors of web, etc., to buy into AMP to get higher in the listings in search engine optimization. Like AMP, that was Google's, just rip out all your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and host your content on our servers, and we'll place you higher in search results. They totally pulled that. And you think that ChatGPT isn't going to do something similar? Provide an MCP server. We'll put you at the top. And so I suspect you're going to find that people who are on discoverability and marketing and funnel, they're probably going to end up pushing these different directors in that direction, whether or not it starts as a fully agentic agenda. I think that is how it will begin. Will be with those small discoverability wins.
Yeah, I think there's no way back now. I agree with you. I was just remembering what Brian said, because he's a very vocal guy when it means to when it refers to design and like experiences, because he's a designer. And
I would totally expect designers to have that feeling.
Yeah. I want to talk about something different now, which is you've been working on web protocols. And do you think that the current stage of the web protocols that we have is a good ground for agentic browsing, or do we need to improve them because they were built not with AI in mind, right? Or at least most of them.
That's a great question. I mean, what comes to mind is payment protocols. This has just been everything. There's a great book by, have you ever read the book or heard of the book, Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud?
No.
It was very popular with designers for a long time.
Okay.
It talks about visual communication through cartoons and comics. But it was part of a trilogy, Understanding Comics, which most people that I used to work with in UX had read, Making Comics, which was for cartoonists, and cartoonists, most of the ones I know read that one. But then there was Reinventing Comics. I don't know many people who've read this book, but it predicted the iPad. It predicted things like Facebook and the rise of web art sites like DeviantArt. I'm not sure it predicted generative art. I think that was beyond the scope, but it predicted micropayments, and it was one of the few things that didn't come through. And so protocols, payment protocols, if the web is going to survive, it has to have payment protocols. This was written about in Stratechery. There's a great article about it. I highly recommend people check it out. But the point is, payment protocols have to be brought up to speed, or the web will be withering. You know, the people who create the content that benefits these LLMs, you know, training the LLMs and for agents to bring anything useful or pretty back, people got to be incentivized. Otherwise, we humans are stuck at this snapshot of time, which is not very good for our species. That's a bad state. Additionally, I think there are a couple of other things that need work, especially when it comes to surfacing APIs to agents. RSS feeds, for instance, their latest incarnation is something called @proto, which it's you might have heard of Blue Sky. This is run on top of @proto. It's a decentralized social networking protocol, and it's actually really nicely designed in such a way that it's beneficial for AI, because the social network remains public and open at all times. No one owns it, but you can build apps on top of it. You can also, interact with it agentically without an expensive API you have to interact with. So I really think the decentralized protocols, we saw a lot of them fail during the Web3 craze. A couple of them have survived, and they are not tied to crypto or anything, but they have the word decentralized in there. And that lets you know that this is something that agents can make good use of.
Yeah. I think you're entering like a very dangerous field with AI plus decentralized steps.
Well, either you decentralize it and everyone gets access, or you leave it in a walled garden and
Hmm.
the scrapers and crawlers slowly start beating on the doors to get in.
Yeah. But do you think that that logic of decentralizing like the base layer will apply to other stuff? Like for example, blog posting. Right now we have Substack as the main player, and that's kind of a wall garden.
Yeah.
But maybe we could shift it to like Substack is the UI, and then we have a decentralized blog post technology.
I love it. Like a headless blog post. I think it was WordPress integrated
Hmm.
MCP servers recently, and I love that. When you look at App Proto, it can be extrapolated out to include things like blog posts, etc. So I
Okay.
think people can experiment with that protocol and expand on it because what is a short format post but a very tiny blog, right?
Yeah.
You can
Hmm.
use it for longer posts. There are, for instance, clones of Instagram, which is images on the App Proto network, and you build an
Hmm.
app around that. People have built games on it. It's just a protocol for identifying a person, like an email address. You would buy an
Hmm.
ID the same way you could buy and host an email address with their content creation in public. So that is what I think I see coming in the future. Yeah, you could build a blog and host an MCP server, and all your posts are available as resources. That's cool. But an even better thing would probably be to start contributing to that open network and identifying your things with an openly available user ID.
Okay, that's super interesting. Okay, let's just go to the final questions. What are you most excited for in the next like 5 to 10 years in regards to the AI and all of this stuff that we've been talking about?
5 to 10 years, 5 to 10 months is more like it. In 5 to 10 years, I
Okay,
personally
so
don't.
maybe you can answer for like next 5 months and then next 5 years, because 10 years is impossible to predict.
It is.
Yeah.
I would say in the next 5 to 10 months, I'm really curious to see where Web MCP goes. It's a proposal at the W3C where websites
Hmm.
can spin up completely in the front end using JavaScript, little MCP servers. Now, this could be really cool, especially if you're using an agentic, an AI browser. You visit a web page and it can just, bam, here's an MCP server. Of course, on the other hand, there's part of me that's like, it's a server. It should be on a server, not in the client. What the hey? But I'm curious to see if it unlocks any exciting new use cases that maybe I just
Hmm.
haven't imagined yet. So MCPB is also MCP for browsers. This one is a slightly different but parallel track. I'm really curious to see how that ends up. I am excited to see where MCP UI goes. Now,
Okay.
I think 5 to 10 years, what I'm curious about is which protocol ends up reigning supreme. Will it be MCP? Will it be ACP? Will it be agent to agent? Will we have something completely different? Two things happen. Either, as I remember from HTML5 and onward, either you take the weird protocols and languages you got, like JavaScript, and you just kind of make them better as you go along, like TypeScript.
Hmm.
Well, we didn't put typing into JavaScript because we made it in a week. Well, there we go. Now you can add that with TypeScript. Or something else comes along and the thing that you thought was going to take off, like XML, ends
Hmm.
up not taking off at all, and everyone just continued with HTML and evolved it into HTML5. Back in the day, we all thought everything was going to be XML. That's why sitemaps are in
Okay.
XML. And now we think it's all going to be Markdown. It'll
Yeah.
probably all be Markdown. But that's my point. I can't wait to see which technologies are actually going to win out, and that we'll be using to build the future of how people communicate and share information.
Well, at least now I think MCP has the first spot because even Apple is surrendering to MCP with Siri, supposedly, at least from the leaks that we have right now.
I'm very curious about this from a security perspective. This has been
Hmm.
a challenge with MCP UI as well because it uses iframes, and that's a border.
Yeah.
When you share information across a frame, you're sharing, per PII possibly to another site, and that's a big no-no. We got cores for that. And I am interested to see what comes out of Apple and Anthropic's efforts when it comes to the web and MCP. And until I see them shipping things with the agentic web, I'd be a little suspicious on the security.
Okay. Thank you a lot for being here. It was a great conversation. And I hope to see you in Lisbon in a few days.
Absolutely.
And
I won't be talking about the web there. I will be talking about environmentally sustainable AI. That is to say, on-device models and how they're really good for the user and, well, the world. So hope you'll join us for that.
yeah, we don't want to spoil that your talk. So for the people that's still listening, I think the tickets are sold out as we are recording this, but you can still tune in for the live that will be happening, the live stream that will be happening during the conference. And once again, Rachel, thank you a lot for being here. It was a great conversation.
And if the listeners would like to keep up with the agentic web and how it evolves, I've got a newsletter at Nearest Neighbors. That's NABORS.
Which is an amazing name.
Yes, I know. I've embraced it. People start coming up to me at conferences now and they're like, "Are you Nearest Neighbors?" I'm like, maybe I should just introduce myself as Nearest now. But go to nearestneighbors.com and check it out. I write about the agentic web there.
See you.
Bye.